under his breath, he just said, of course, the World Cup. Well, no, that should be your answer at this point. This also comes on the heels of Mauricio Pochettino very publicly castigating Tim Weah and saying you should be focused on one thing and one thing only. All right, well, the same should apply to Mauricio Pochettino. The only thing that should matter and the most important thing in your life should be doing well in the World Cup. Hello, sunshine. I'm Alexi Lalas, and welcome to the State of the Union podcast, where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue-colored glasses. This show, we'll be talking Pochettino's future, U.S. men's national team power rankings, Pulisic and McKennie transfer rumors, Tyler Adams' return, college soccer reality, Olympic takes, MLS valuations, and so much more. But first, joining me as always, my friend, my colleague, my guiding lights, David Mosse, a soccer savant and a Fox soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire. Mosse, how you doing on this? What are we looking at here? Hold on, let me put my cheaters on here. Wednesday, February 11th in the year 2026.
I'm doing well. The weather was a pleasant surprise today. It was supposed to rain, which it did a little bit in the morning, but it actually turned into a beautiful day.
You know, us even just discussing the weather, let alone being critical or down about the weather over here, I shy away from that given what's going on in the rest of the country here. But I did talk to my mom, who I know you talk to probably more than I do, today, and she had seen that it was very nice weather here relative to where she is out on the East Coast over there. At the risk of being geriatric in our content here, have you ever strained your back, pulled your back, thrown your back out, or anything like that?
I have not, thankfully.
You haven't. It'll come at some point. So I have a music studio in my home, and on my left-hand side is my guitars. And so I turned to grab my guitars whenever I want to record something, and I grabbed a guitar. It's a Les Paul, and for those that know guitars, Les Pauls are very heavy. I grabbed it with my left hand, and my upper body strength is not what it used to be, evidently. And so I tweaked my back here. It's killing me, but I'm going to power through the show here on your incredible energy and plenty of Advil over there. You want to let the folks know anything? Because is this a new sweatshirt that you're wearing?
No, I've worn this multiple times
Really?
in the pod before.
Well, I don't know what you're using over there when it comes to your laundry, but I don't. That's a secret that I'm sure you'll take to your grave. It just looks brand new, and it's a zip one, unlike the pullovers that I know you like.
By the way, Bad Bunny's halftime performance still reverberating. You missed a control room debate earlier between myself, Niles, Tripp, Sean Sullivan, and others as to whether Bad Bunny is a rapper. Does he technically fit the definition of a rapper?
Yeah, but I think the rap genre has taken on, and I think delightfully so, much more of a melodic sense. So it still has the rhythmic part of it that I think is important, but I think that there has been, and that's what's always been missing for me when it comes to rap music, is the melody in the actual singer, rapper, whatever it is. So I would say he's still a rapper, but I think the definition of a rapper, I think, has changed over years.
I mentioned Tripp. He is back from vacation.
Yep.
He celebrated his 30th birthday recently, so happy birthday to Tripp. And I found out during this conversation, the only thing Tripp hates more than USC sports is the rapper Drake. He despises him.
Drake's the guy from Toronto, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay. The guy that bets money and then loses a lot and people laugh?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I know about him. Shall we light this candle, my friend?
Let's do it.
Where should we start?
Well, if you listen to Monday's pod, during the AskAlexi segment, we listened to a voicemail in which someone suggested that Weston McKennie and not Christian Pulisic was actually the biggest American snub from that Guardian Top 100 list. And then I wondered aloud, if you were to put together a U.S. player power ranking right now, would Weston McKennie be at the top? That got Sean Sullivan thinking, because people love lists. And so he asked you to come up with a top 5 U.S. player power ranking.
Well, I love me some power rankings, Mosse. We will definitely have power rankings come this summer with the World Cup. I love it. As you said, it's like catnip, and it is evergreen out there when it comes to people, because people agree, people disagree. As I always say with my power rankings, these are my power rankings, all right? You can get your own, and they are designed to titillate, and they change. and they change constantly. Interesting thing about this one, and we had to clarify this, and I want to make sure that we do before we get into and I only went for 5 at this point, just top 5 power rankings. I am going to make them relative to the moment, okay? So if you happen to be hurt, for example, you can't be in my power rankings right now. So it's kind of what you've done. I guess maybe we'll do this every couple of weeks or something like that. So it'll have to encompass a kind of a 2-week span. So if you are, like I said, hurt, doesn't mean you're not a great player. Doesn't mean you possibly couldn't be at the top of my power rankings. But you got to be playing and doing well. And there are other great players that maybe have just been consistent throughout a long period of time that maybe they'll suffer because somebody is kind of shot to the top. It's almost like a music list, if you will, in that you have these one-hit wonders, or you have these ones that shoot to the top, and you have your consistent, huge artists out there. So I just wanted to preface that before I went into this. And I went, so I'm going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready? Are you ready, my friend?
I am ready.
Okay, so number 5 is Alex Freeman. He has kind of, rocketed to this top 5, if you will. Malik Tillman, a little bit more consistency, certainly, than a Freeman or something like that, but has had a really good period right now. And so I think that that's legitimate at number 4. Brendan Aronson, I think he's just been consistent now for weeks, months, if you will. And I don't think that there's anybody that has maybe changed the perception of him relative to making the World Cup team, or even being on the field and doing well, more so than Brendan Aronson and what he's done. And we've talked about his ceiling and what it is or what it isn't, but he is obviously has some completely different ideas about what his ceiling is, and it's wonderful to see. Tessman is that maybe one-hit wonder type of thing. Wonderful moment right now, playing consistently 90 minutes, and being on the field when they are doing well. I don't know if it's enough yet to get him on the team this coming summer, but he's doing everything in his power right now, and there's a lot of people whose heads he is turning, and so that's why he goes to number 2. And then it should come as no surprise, given everything that we have said about Weston McKennie and where he is and the level that he is playing right now, his consistency, his value. He's at number 1. So again, Christian Pulisic, nowhere to be found. Why? Well, certainly the second half of his season right now has been anything but what the first half was, and he's hurt. Coming back, which is great, and so who knows? He could come back with flying colors and do wonderful things, and because of who Christian Pulisic is, I think it's easy for him to skyrocket back into my power rankings there. Anything you agree or disagree with here or just take issue with?
It's interesting because you're the form is fallacy guy, but for this project, you leaned into recent form. I think if you were to put together a best U.S. player list in general, Weston McKennie is the only one that would survive and would appear on that list as well, because you would still say guys like Pulisic and Tyler Adams and Chris Richards and Anthony Robinson are the best U.S. players, but they just happen to be either injured or out of form, so you went with these guys. Yes,
but if, for example, we were talking about, and we will talk about Tyler Adams coming back, but if some of these players come back and they're just okay, yes, they do get the benefit of the doubt because of what they have done in the past, but not completely. In that, I think some people, and I mentioned guys like Tanner Tessman and Alex Freeman, maybe because they are playing consistently, I think they're going to have something to say, even with some of these players coming back. So it'll be interesting. I would love nothing more than everybody was healthy and everybody was playing, including, like you said, Tyler Adams and Jedi Robinson and Gio Reyna. And in a week from now, we're also going to put into those the MLS players that are coming back online here. So there will be a lot of different things if I'm just going with 5 every couple of weeks.
So one player not on the list because he's been sidelined for a while due to injury is Tyler Adams. But as we transition to a midweek Premier League round, Tyler Adams is back, sort of. He was an unused sub for Bournemouth yesterday in their 2-1 away win over Everton. Brazilian teenager Haya conceded a penalty, but then redeemed himself by scoring. That's 2 goals, 1 assist in 3 games for him. Adley got the other for the Cherries. Nice victory for them. They're in the top half of the table. And it looks like they're going to get Tyler Adams back on the field soon.
But I don't think too soon. And I think that they are treating him, and I think fairly so, with kid gloves here. and they're going to have a nice little break here. And so while I think it was good for him, not just physically to show that he can be back, but even for mentally for Tyler Adams, who we know, I mean, gosh, he has had a lot of injuries over the years. And he is, I hate to use the word, but he's kind of fragile. And so I'm happy that he was there for his mentality of going forward and getting back. But I'm also kind of happy that they're taking a very cautious approach to him. And I say that I'm happy because of what I think he is going to do if, knock on wood, he is fully healthy this summer, and the competition that he can create for being on the field, but also just the value that he brings being on the field.
Also on Tuesday, Brendan Aronson started for Leeds, who were away to Chelsea. This was an astonishing match. I watched the whole thing. Chelsea were leading 2-0 mid-second half thanks to a Jerome Pedro and a Cole Palmer penalty, and it might as well have been 5-0. They had completely dominated up to that point. They looked to be cruising, and then they switched off. Mecha from the penalty spot 2-1, and then Okafor 2-2. Brendan Aronson went almost the whole way. He was subbed out late, but Leeds salvaged a remarkable point. And it turned out to be a fortuitous day for them because not only did they get this point, West Ham were leading Manchester United late, surrendered a stoppage time equalizer to Šeško. So it looked like it might go down to 3. Instead, the gap stayed at 6 between those two clubs.
When somebody that doesn't follow soccer, talks to you, and I know you are incredibly benevolent when it comes to the knowledge that you have. You will talk to anyone. When the old adage of 2-0 is the most dangerous lead in soccer comes up, how is it that you try to explain to him how that concept works?
Well, I should say I've always found that expression to be kind of dumb, but to the extent that there's any
validity to it. You start off with calling
the
person dumb, okay, and this thing dumb, but you still go on because you are the person you are to explain it, right?
I guess a 2-goal advantage might cause you to do what I just said Chelsea did, to switch off and think you're in better shape than you are, and then the momentum of a match can switch like that.
But you don't think that had anything to do with it, and therefore it's a dumb thing to say.
I suppose, yeah. If it had stayed 1-0, Chelsea might have stayed more focused and not let down their guard. But you think there is something to it?
Well, I just think in your big brain, it's very difficult. And I've been there before. It's very difficult. Two things can be true at the same time. Yes, being up 2-0, you should be so lucky, right? It means you're winning, and it means you scored 2 goals. I mean, the best laid plans when it comes to managers and coaches around the world, that's what you want to do. But yes, there is an element of taking your foot off the pedal. I think in human beings, and obviously that manifests at time in sports. And especially if you're playing a team, in this case, we're talking about Chelsea versus Leeds, where you think, okay, it's done and dusted. That's it. And I think it's a kind of natural thing to have happen. All coaches and managers, they try to guard against it. Even players try to guard against it. But I think, this is what I would hope, Mosse, because you will be asked this again this summer because all these people are coming into the tent. I think that you can find a better way, not a better way, but a more, a kinder way to explain this effect that happens. Because I do think there is something to it. But in no way, shape, or form should any player, fan, coach not want to go up 2-0 because of this possible effect that happens.
Incidentally, I was very glad Brendan Aronson started because 3 Brazilians started for Chelsea, João Pedro, André Santos, and Estevão. And so I was going to watch this match anyway, but with Aronson starting, I could pass it off as me doing work.
Right.
Preparing for the pod.
Exactly. All right. Where do we go to now?
Today, Wednesday, Manchester City claimed a comfortable 3-0 home win over Fulham. Semenyo, who joined from Bournemouth in January and has been a terrific signing for them, O'Reilly and Holland with the goals. And it's interesting how the order of the games can affect our perception of the title race. This knocks it down to 3. Arsenal have a tricky game tomorrow away to Brentford. So all of a sudden, Arsenal with some pressure here when they take the field tomorrow.
It's just a quirk of the schedule, obviously, because they have a game in hand, Arsenal, but right. So, but it's nice to see them kind of be put under this pressure because 3 is obviously very, very. Here's another one you can talk to your friends about. 3 is different than 9. Okay.
Now, second straight match for Fulham. Anthony Robinson, an unused sub. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, so from a competitive standpoint, you probably don't want to be involved in this one. Although it's Man City, and there are plenty of teams, including a team like Fulham, that would say, all right, well, we'll live to fight another day. That he was there and an unused sub, it's a little concerning to me, because this isn't just any player. I know we talk about him, from a U.S. men's national team perspective, but even if you took that out of the equation, this is a guy that for a number of years was in pen, playing there on that left-hand side. Now, is it because whatever injury he has had has now made him lesser of a player, or he's still not back to where he needs to be? I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of both of those things. But yeah, it's a little concerning that he is not there for a player that has been such an impactful and valuable player, not just for Fulham, but the way people have viewed him outside, to not be there.
This upcoming weekend in England, we have the FA Cup fourth round. Norwich City will host West Brom. Josh Sargent still frozen out and still no deal with Toronto. And the interesting development there is that on deadline day, Norwich acquired the striker Mohamed Touré, an Australian international, and he has 4 goals in 2 games. He got one against Blackburn and then a hat-trick against Oxford. So Norwich fans have moved on. Even if they were to make peace with Sargent tomorrow, I don't know that he's going to walk back into the starting lineup. So that situation is very messy for him.
But they could still do a deal with MLS.
Correct.
Although in a year and a half or whatever, when everything changes, that would be out, and because you would be on the same schedule as everybody else, and therefore the window would have been closed. So there's, positives and negatives when it comes to that. But either way, when it comes to Josh Sargent, didn't get his move and now isn't even playing. So, World Cup, I don't even think is something that he, or to be fair, Mauricio Pochettino is considering right now. But, he's still being paid, but he's just kind of cooling his heels right now until the summer, I would think.
We mentioned,
or unless they do a deal.
Brendan Aronson and Leeds, they will be away to Birmingham City, which of course is owned by our Fox Sports colleague Tom Brady, who, by the way, has gotten rave reviews for year 2 as a commentator. The general consensus is Brady improved quite a bit from year 1 to year 2.
Well,
when you first got into television, were you slow out of the gates, and then you could sense yourself getting better the more you got used to it?
Oh no, I was awesome from the get. It was. No, look, like anything, the more you do it, the better off you're going to get. It's just a matter of how much you're improving. And I think you just said the consensus, but I don't care about the consensus. I care about what you think. Do you think that he has improved? Because I do. And look, if I didn't think it, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But I do think that he has improved.
Not only has he gotten better, but parallel to that, Tony Romo has gotten worse. So we now have the upper hand in that.
Well, that was relative to all the prognostication, right? He was able to predict what was going to happen. And once that kind of didn't or stopped being as cool as it was initially, then you still gotta work. Look, you know what? This is such a subjective business, and people like you, they don't like you, whether it's fans or viewers or your bosses and anything like that. But ultimately, it's still about work. It's still about doing as much work as you possibly can. And then there's an innate type of thing that you have. But if anybody has shown that hard work can provide fruit, it's certainly somebody like Tom Brady. So I think he's done the work, and I think it's shown in his performance.
Incidentally, he spent his entire college career at Michigan, so there's no ambiguity there, unlike other schools that have to claim a running back who spent like 15 minutes at their school. That's an inside joke, my state rivals. On the topic of championship clubs, we just mentioned Birmingham City and Norwich, West Brom. Big one on Monday in the championship. Coventry will host Middlesbrough. That's Haji Wright against Aidan Morris. Middlesbrough right now 2 points above Coventry at the top of the table. Shaw Brown's Ipswich Town are third.
And both of these players from a U.S. men's national team perspective, I think, are on the outside looking in when you talk about, I'm just not Haji Wright, but Aidan Morris. You had mentioned, who did you mention? Yeah, you mentioned when you were talking about DK and those types of players. I think that Haji Wright is going to be there. Again, he can play multiple positions, which I think makes him more valuable. The Aidan Morris, we talked about him a couple weeks ago, and I still don't think he's nowhere close to my power rankings level right now. And I think and he's one for sure if he doesn't get called in March. As a lot of players, if he doesn't get called in March, then there's no chance.
We go to Serie A next. On Friday, AC Milan will be away to Pisa. It sounds like Pulisic will be back for that game. He's been sidelined due to injury. Interesting news regarding Pulisic. Tutto Sport had an article about him. They mentioned that his contract is up in 27, and Pulisic and AC Milan had verbally agreed to a new deal months ago, but Milan have actually yet to put something on the table for him to sign. He's growing a little bit restless. Then the article ends by saying that Milan better hurry up because the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool are tracking him.
So first off, a verbal agreement, okay? Obviously, we know contractually and legally that's not binding. But it has to come from somewhere. At some point, you have to be sitting down with the decision makers, whether it's you or your representative, and you have to say, we want to sign you. And the agent or the player, if you're going directly with the player, will say, I want to sign. So that's I guess, a verbal agreement, with the understanding that it can be tossed away at any moment. But it does seem strange that because a verbal agreement comes from, I want to sign you, and we want to sign you. I want to sign. But, okay, it should be easy then. Go to the frickin' fax machine. Do anybody use fax machines anymore? Go to the printer, and let's go. Let's get this thing done. So that's a little strange. More interestingly is the potential, and this is media. And who knows how much or little of this is true, but it's still fun to talk about when it comes to Christian Pulisic and what his value would be after what he has done in Serie A with AC Milan. And, these are some very, very big clubs. And whether it's Arsenal or Liverpool, if that were to happen, they should be so lucky to get someone like Christian Pulisic. I don't know. Do you think it would be a good move? Let's just first start with that.
I would prefer for him to stay at AC Milan where he's found a good home, where he plays well, instead of going back to a big Premier League club. I know the grass is always greener, but let's remember how things went at Chelsea, how toxic it was at the end there. There's something with Americans and England still that I don't think always makes for a good match.
Okay, so it's not specific for you to the level, and I think we can both agree that he can compete, I think, at any level in the world. It's specific to the culture and the climate, not the climate, the weather-wise, but just the climate that is the EPL and that is English soccer.
Let's remember, Weston McKennie, you see what he's doing at Juventus. He was laughed out of England when he played for Leeds. There are still people in that country that think he's a horrible player and that his success at Juve says more about Serie A than anything else.
It's not for everybody. Whether it's and there will be players that go to Serie A and say, this is not what I signed up for, this is not what I like. So, yeah, you got to find a place where on the field you feel comfortable and off the field you feel comfortable. I'm not ready to say that Pulisic can't assimilate or re-assimilate, I guess it would be, if he's going back to England. And from a selfish perspective, I would kind of still love to see it because, we talked about before about what are the ultimate elite teams in the world. And there's still a very small group of teams. And certainly someone going to Arsenal or someone going to Liverpool, especially with his pedigree, it would be fun to see and to kind of test that experiment, whether he's going to assimilate or if he is going to be able to actually do the soccer and if he's going to play. And for a lot of Americans, it would be immediately eyes on teams that already have a lot of eyes when it comes to Arsenal, Liverpool.
Speaking of Weston McKennie and staying on the Americans' contract situation with a big Italian club tip, McKennie's contract with Juve is up this summer. We know Luciano Spalletti is a big fan. He wants Juve to re-sign him, but they're still far apart on money. And now you're seeing reports in Italy that Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan are interested in Weston, and he has a chance this upcoming weekend to impress Inter Milan. Juve are away to Inter in the Derby d'Italia, big one in Italy, first versus fourth. So like Pulisic, you still think that the best place to see the best of Weston McKennie is Serie A? So, for example, you'd be much more happy to see him go to someplace like Inter Milan as opposed to going to someplace in England? Yeah, now the other option with him mentioned was Atletico Madrid. Right. That could be interesting. He is kind of a Simeone player.
More so than England?
But I think I would prefer Inter.
Okay, if it was Inter?
Definitely not England.
Oh, definitely not England.
Yeah.
Boy, someone's really down on England right now when it comes to, certain players,
Well, just Americans there. Right. Brazilians have never been higher. I mean, the Premier League is chock full of Brazilians now.
So what do you think it is? What do you think it is when it comes to Americans in England?
I don't know. Did you see, by the way, I sent you guys this clip, Gilberto Mora's agent talking about the transfer fee from Mora, and the Brazilian league caught a stray. She's like, I see these Brazilians going for like 80 million euros and Mexicans go for 8 million, and their league isn't that much better than ours, and that's ridiculous. And I'm on a mission to make sure that Gilberto Mora gets a Brazilian type transfer fee when he goes to Europe. So that's something to keep an eye on with Mexico's big teenage star.
All right. Well, look, I think he's going to be just fine. I'm not worried about him.
But yeah, really looking forward to Inter Juve. That's always a fun rivalry. And Weston has good numbers against Inter in his career. Incidentally, before we depart Italy, the Coppa Italia semis are set. It'll be Inter versus Como. Cesc Fabregas doing a terrific job with Como, by the way. And then the other semifinal, Atalanta versus Lazio. Lazio broke Sean Sullivan's heart today. They eliminated Bologna on penalties.
The Como thing is kind of like what we talked about last pod about, these clubs that have these shining moments. Oftentimes they're brief, the Parmas and the Sampdorias and stuff like that. But obviously it's an opportunity to do something for players and managers to show what they can do to kind of go on. But I'm not sure if it's sustainable when it comes to some of these places.
The Copa del Rey semis got underway today. Real Sociedad, who are managed by an American, Pellegrino Matarazzo, they claimed a 1-0 away win in the first leg against their Basque rivals, Athletic Bilbao. So they're in good shape to advance there. The other semifinal begins tomorrow. Atletico Madrid hosting Barcelona. Sounds like Johnny Cardoso's still out with injury.
All right. I mean, it's hard to judge him with him being out so much. So, I mean, hopefully he gets better. Rashford's out too?
I hadn't checked the Barca injury list, so if we're trusting Sean Sullivan's rundown, he has Rashford and Rafinha out for Barcelona.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not worried. I think Marcus Rashford has a much better chance of being stateside and playing soccer this summer than Johnny.
Back to Pellegrino Matarazzo. He has a big few days here. Obviously, this game today was huge. And then at the weekend, Real Sociedad are away to Real Madrid.
Ooh.
He just beat Barcelona. If he knocks off Real Madrid this weekend, then it becomes a major story. He's going to start to get linked to some bigger jobs.
I mean, we had talked about last show about the possibility of him coaching the U.S. men's national team in the future, and absolutely he should be on lists. But who knows? He might have even bigger fish to fry when it comes to opportunities if he keeps doing what he's doing.
On the managerial front, Roberto De Zerbi is out at Marseille, so Timmy Weah will have a new coach. We'll see who they bring in as a replacement. De Zerbi already being mentioned as a candidate for Tottenham. That job is available because they sacked Thomas Frank, and as we know, anytime the Tottenham job becomes available, Mauricio Pochettino's name comes up, as it has. I presume that's for after the World Cup. I don't think anybody seriously thinks he would leave the U.S. now to take that job. But we did get an AskAlexi question about that. And also, Pochettino gave an interview in England recently that had you scratching your head. So should we save all this for the AskAlexi segment coming up?
We will, but just before we go, if you play for any length of time, inevitably you are going to be in a situation where the coach gets fired. Right? That's just the way that it goes. Coaches, managers get fired all the time. And it's always fascinated me, the dynamic within a club when it comes to players, when, a new coach comes in. And different coaches do different things. Some come in and clean house immediately, and right from the get-go whether you are one of their guys or not, and they make it very, very clear. Some do it in a really effective and kind of respectful way, and say, "Look, you might be good, but we're moving in a different direction," and they're honest about it. Some bide their time. Some don't tell you at all. Some you have to go to get the information, but it can be almost cathartic and a weight can be lifted off of whatever is not going well to have made a change. And we've talked before about the bump that sometimes managers have coming in, just seeing from the outside or even sometimes from the inside if they're raised from above, from within, about changing the things and immediately ingratiating that only lasts so long. But those locker rooms and those training sessions, they can be drastically different when somebody new walks into town.
We dealt with this recently when Kyla Morris was fired. I know we said on the air it was Kyla's choice to leave just to be nice to her, but we know what really happened there. Tripp brought in as a replacement.
Well, there's also the outside media way that it is portrayed, and then the realities that are happening behind the scenes. So, yeah, we understand that. All right, well, anyway, good tease when it comes to Coach Pochettino, because we got some stuff to say after he said some things. So we will take a break. We'll come back with Ask Alexi, and we'll talk about that. Okay, welcome back. It's time for Ask Alexi, that part of the show where you send in your comments, questions, and concerns. Keep in mind that our handle out there on all the old social media platforms is SOTU with Alexi. And you can use that hashtag AskAlexi, or you can call into our State of the Union podcast hotline, which is 657-549-2297, 657-549-2297. Mosse, what do the folks want to know today?
First up on X, Spurs N17. Fine with Poch headed back to Spurs, even if he produces a fantastic result with the U.S. men's national team? And I know you responded to this essentially saying, yes, if he leads the U.S. to a successful World Cup and then he wants to go back to England to coach, you'd be okay with that?
I'm completely, not only am I okay with it, I think that's what's going to happen. And listen, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I think that Pochettino was hired by the United States Soccer Federation with the intention and the understanding that it was going to be short-term. And short-term, still, year and a half, whatever, but still short-term relative to a full cycle. And I think whether it's fans or media or others out there, I think most people believe that is what is going to be the case. And, if he does well this summer in the World Cup, he can ride off into the sunset. And not only ride off into the sunset, but kind of write his ticket for a lot of different things. And he will have had this experience, and I think he has thoroughly, in the talks that I've had with him, thoroughly enjoyed the experience of being not just a national team coach for the first time, by the way, and getting that international experience, which is very, very different and unique relative to all of the success and his experience that he has at the club level, but also kind of being part of the United States Soccer Federation and the things that they're doing. They have the thing down in Atlanta with the new training center. I do think he's enjoyed that American adventure, if you will. But I also think, and this interview that we're about to talk about here really kind of confirmed that he has other things in the future that he wants to do. But I hope that he gets to ride off into the future in a golden type of chariot, and we have incredible praise and love, and we're building statues to Mauricio Pochettino for what he has been able to do this upcoming summer. But I think it's going to be, he will go off and do other things.
So what you're alluding to is he gave an interview to something called the High Performance Podcast, which I guess is a podcast in England. And he was asked what title he most wants to win in his career. And he said right away, the Premier League and the Champions League. And you could see him realizing in real time that might not go down well in the U.S. And so he added and the World Cup would be cool too. But you could tell the way he answered the question that first and foremost for him is the Premier League and the Champions League. That rubbed you the wrong way.
It's just, it's not like this is Pochettino's first time doing media. And I know there is an element of his second language of English, and there is an element that it gets caught up. But I expect him to be more intelligent about the way that he goes about answering these questions. So in this, under his breath, he just said, of course, the World Cup. Well, no, that should be your answer at this point. Okay? You can say, listen, I would love in the future at some point to win a championship or a title in the Premier League. That's all fine. But this also comes on the heels of Mauricio Pochettino very publicly, castigating Tim Weah in terms of him saying things about the tickets, the World Cup ticket prices, and saying you should be focused on one thing and one thing only. All right, well, the same should apply to Mauricio Pochettino. The only thing that should matter and the most important thing in your life should be doing well in the World Cup. And therefore, what the most important thing for you to win would be the World Cup. And again, I'll give him some grace that he did kind of under his breath say that. But it just, the whole thing just seemed strange. Because again, we're 120 days away from the World Cup? We're getting closer and closer to the World Cup. If he had done this interview, I don't know, a year ago or something like that, okay, whatever. But we're knee deep in it. We are barreling down the pike towards the World Cup. It's right around the corner. That should be the only thing that not only you are thinking about, but that should be the only thing that you are talking about. Again, you're going to have, I'm talking to Mauricio Pochettino, you're going to have so many opportunities. By the way, regardless of what happens with the U.S. team, I think Pochettino is going to have plenty of suitors going forward and plenty of opportunity to live out his fantasy and to possibly realize this dream of winning Champions League and winning a title from a club perspective. You can go on every podcast and every television show and talk about that at a certain point. But right now, it just seems strange to be talking about these things being so close to the World Cup and having everything be focused on that World Cup and on the heels of you making a point that your players need to be 100% focused on the World Cup. That's it.
One of the smartest things I've ever heard you say was that Jurgen Klinsmann was a guy caught between two countries. He was too American for Germany and too German for Americans. There's a little bit of something at play with Pochettino because no genuine Argentine would ever answer anything other than the World Cup as being the most important trophy to win. Argentinians, I could tell you, they are the most like country over club soccer culture on the planet. But Pochettino, he spent the 90% of his playing career in Europe and his entire coaching career in Europe until taking over with the U.S. So I don't know, it's been 20 plus years where his mind has been warped, like being in that environment, Europe, the Premier League. Oh no, this is the ultimate thing. And so I do think he's sort of caught in between those two cultures now.
Look, I appreciate honesty, okay? But in this case, again, be smart about it. It's a simple question to answer without getting people riled up. And maybe I'm just getting too riled up about it. Again, I really enjoy Pochettino. And I have, like I said before, really come around to believing that not only that he's good, but there is, as I said before, a method to whatever madness I was seeing out there. But this looks naive. This type of thing, doing something like that. So I question why, if you're going to do this show, first off, why are you doing this show? Or is it to just kind of lay the foundation that, hey, I'm looking for things going forward, and these are my dreams, and these are my aspirations relative to club, and I'm going to be needing a job here in a few months? Okay, I get it, but I just think you'll have all of these opportunities to do this at a future date. And when you get given these, what amounts to softball questions, just hit it out of the park, man. Hit it out of the park. And in doing so, again, ingratiate yourself to the people that are not just paying you money, but have a belief that you are 100% like your players focused on what's going to happen this summer.
You know, with Tottenham, the dichotomy between Europe and the Premier League the last two seasons has been crazy. They finished 17th in the Premier League last season, but won the Europa League. This season, they're 16th in the Prem. They finished 4th in the Champions League phase standings, above like Real Madrid, Barcelona, clubs like that. It's strange. Blake is predicting that they're going to get relegated and win the Champions League, which would be a funny.
Whoa, that would be fun to see and interesting.
Although he did think Oregon was going to beat Indiana, so take Blake's prediction with a grain of salt.
It's all right. It's all right. Listen.
Also on X, College Soccer Truth asks, Missouri State University men's soccer just released their 2026 roster, and to my knowledge, it will be the first D1 school to have 0 American players. One player's hometown says Connecticut, but his bio says Jamaica. Also an incoming freshman born in 2004 and several born in 2005. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so, this is a I think probably a much longer conversation, but one that has, continued to be brought up, and I think, again, fairly so. It's disappointing to hear that, okay? But we, and I say we, Americans and American soccer, we are to blame. We have created this situation. That I've talked about this before, that traditional college soccer system, pathway, whatever you want to call it, has become antiquated for most of the elite American players. And when it comes to recruiting, the whole process of recruiting has fundamentally changed. And colleges now can recruit much more easily when it comes to foreign players who, and this is not a dirty little secret, oftentimes are much more mature and much more experienced. And on the other side, who see the opportunities that colleges afford both on and off the field, and at times also a backdoor back into the game and the professional game, whether it's here or back wherever they are coming from. So, it also there's some perspective in order too, even recent. If you look at, for example, the Washington team that just won the NCAA Division I men's soccer title, mostly Americans. However, if you look 2 years ago to the Vermont team, the knock on them was it was mostly a lot of foreign players. And look, I even back when I was playing in college, we certainly had foreign players coming over, which is all fine and well. What I think it gets down to, and I got a message from someone when I was talking about this over on the X machine. And I ended up talking to this young man. His name's Addison Watson. He is a lawyer now, but some years ago, he was the goalkeeper for Missouri State University, which is what this question was about. And it was a very different looking Missouri State right now. And I think he was realistic about the moment that we're in. And I think he was also fair about what can and what cannot be done. And it's different when you're talking about private institutions. But when, in this case, it's Missouri State, when they are taking public monies, then I think the question at the very least can be asked, okay, fine, but what are you doing for the American player? And, you could have coaches, I'm sure, that would argue as to, well, this is the new reality of college soccer right now, and this is what I do. This is how I used to recruit. This is how I recruit now. Or my job is to win. And so I have to go out there and as quickly and as efficiently get as many good players as possible. Should be noted that Missouri State, just because they have a roster full of foreign players, doesn't necessarily mean that they are the best team out there. But if it's easier to recruit foreign players, that's all fine and well. But if you are a institution that is getting public monies, our money, our taxpayer money, shouldn't you in return provide opportunities for the country in which that institution is in? I don't know. Ultimately, and we've talked before about the plan or the hope of what college soccer can be. I think it is a sleeping giant. I think it is a resource that has to be harnessed or reharnessed going forward. But in order to make it a viable possibility for players in the U.S., especially elite players out there, you have to be able to compete with, academies and second teams, and the shortness of the season and the disparity when it comes to quality, especially when it comes to the competition that you're playing, that has to be addressed in some way. But yes, it's disappointing, like I said, but again, we as Americans and we as American soccer have allowed this to happen to what once was a traditional pathway for a lot of not just good soccer players, but great soccer players. And we've let that get away. And I don't know. I don't have the answer here. But, either way, this is something that is going to continually being talked about certainly when it comes to the men's side, and it will eventually happen when it comes to the women's side.
That is it.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for sending in your comments, questions, and concerns over there. You know what? We're going to take one more break here, and when we come back, we'll finish it off with, one for the road. Okay, welcome back. It's the end of our show, and at the end of each and every show, I give you my one for the road. I got a question over there on the old X machine about this yearly list that comes out of the valuation of Major League Soccer teams. And Cullen over there on the X machine was asking me, are these teams really that profitable? And over there on Sportico, each year they come out with, like I said, valuations from top to bottom of Major League Soccer teams. And this year is no different. It's provided, plenty of fodder and interesting talking points because these are just kind of numbers that are thrown out there. And I'm not saying that there isn't some science to what is going on, but let's be honest. When it comes to valuations of things, the only thing that ultimately matters at the end of the day is how much somebody is willing to pay. And I'm really going to be interested going forward as kind of the OGs and the original ownership groups of Major League Soccer, now going into its 31st year, start to flip these assets that they have. Some that they bought for pennies, basically, considering to what they're worth right now. And on the other side, when people start kicking the tires, notwithstanding what Sportico or anybody else says what the valuations are, what those sales are. Right now, according to Sportico, number one is Inter Miami. Should probably be no surprise right now at $1.45 billion. LAFC at number two at 1.4, and the Los Angeles Galaxy at 1.17. Lots of different numbers here, and a lot of them in the billions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams in the billion mark, or over the billion mark here, or 5 teams. Seattle almost to that billion mark. Inter Miami, Los Angeles, like I said, LAFC, LA Galaxy, Atlanta United, and NYCFC over that billion mark. And it goes all the way down to the very bottom where Montreal at the 430 million mark. Now, don't cry for Montreal because when Montreal was bought, they've made a pretty penny in terms of that valuation. I don't think that there is a fan base that concerns itself in a positive way, more so with the business of the sport that they know and love than Major League Soccer, and maybe soccer in general. And maybe it comes from that insecurity of it going away and wanting to grab hold onto something. And you can certainly grab hold on this. This is a good story to tell if you are Major League Soccer or if you're just talking about soccer in general, especially when you compare and contrast it with, the rest of the world. But again, these are just numbers that get thrown out there until somebody actually steps up, like I said, kicks the tires and said, yeah, that LAFC team, I'm willing to pay $1.5 billion for it because it makes financial sense. And another 10, 20, 30 years from now, it's going to be worth, $5 billion or whatever it ends up being. But these are fun discussions to have. And not for nothing, but some perspective is in order. And for a league that started back in 1996, for a league that almost went under at the turn of the century, for a league where you could have, at the very beginning of the aughts, gotten an MLS team for, like I said, pennies relative to what they're worth right now, the $10 million or something like that. As the saying goes, you've come a long way, baby. And if these numbers are even close to being true from a business perspective, I think that says a lot about how good the business has been, and maybe more importantly, how good the business they think it is going to be going forward.
David Beckham, per his deal with MLS, when he joined as a player, got Inter Miami for $25 million. If this evaluation is correct, if you wanted to flip that sucker, that'd be a nice profit.
I don't think David needs this type of flipping right now. But yeah, I don't regret a lot of things, but I do regret not having a clause like that when I came back in 1996.
Well, and you were involved in negotiating the Beckham deal I just alluded to.
Yeah, and it was prescient, and it was really, really smart in terms of his representation to have that in there, and obviously it has been very, very good to him in terms of an investment and an asset, along with the other things that he does. My friend, you want to hit on anything that you're watching or reading, or you want to mention anything here?
By the way, one last thing on this. LAFC are second to Inter Miami.
Yes.
Some news there. It sounds like Denny Bouanga might stay. That deal with Fluminense is falling apart. So keep an eye on that.
You get Denny Bouanga in the $1.45 billion price tag.
But as far as what am I watching, I did watch that Chevy Chase documentary that you mentioned a couple of weeks back. Yeah, interesting fella. Obviously we know he's had a lot of issues with coworkers and difficult to work with, but even so, throughout the 80s, he was still pumping out very good, successful movies.
Yep.
Man, in the early 90s there, he hit a slump, and then he had that disastrous talk show, and it all fell apart on him. Huh?
It did. But again, I said it when I was talking about it a couple weeks ago. I still find him fascinating, and there's a part of me that thinks that the whole thing is a put on. His whole persona is a put on. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't been an asshole at different times, but I just think that his mind works in a very, very different way. I only have one thing. Over there on Netflix, the Take That documentary. You know who Take That is?
No.
Boy band Take That over from England. Huge, by the way, huge. I really enjoyed them as a boy band, to the extent that one can enjoy boy bands. I did. It also birthed Robbie Williams, who I really, really like as a solo artist, and especially a lot of his pop stuff, pop rock stuff that he came out in the late 90s with. It was really, really good stuff. But the whole dynamic, we talk about teams, we talk about families, and that whole dynamic that exists in there. This is a boy band of 5 guys that were kind of thrown together, had incredible hits, and the dynamic of, who's writing the music and who's getting the money and who's singing the lead and who's getting more famous, and then, the drugs and the women and all the other stuff like that. Some of it is stereotypical, but I just think they did a really, really good job of spreading the attention around to all 5, but also recognizing the different power dynamics that exist in something like that. So I think it was done really, really well.
One last thing, I've been watching the Winter Olympics.
Yes.
How about France stunning the U.S. in ice dancing? But we ended Monday's pod talking about the Olympics because your one for the road was debating whether the World Cup has surpassed the Olympics.
Yeah.
And you were wearing a jacket from the 96 Olympics.
Yep.
As soon as we went off the air, you started telling us stories about the Olympic bombing in 96. And I asked you, would you be comfortable discussing this on the air? And you said, yeah. So
it's obviously it is forever entwined with the 96 Olympics. And so in 1996, it was my second Olympics. And, you go to an Olympics and they give you incredible amounts of stuff. And this is to show you how long ago it was. One of the big items that were given to each and every Olympian was a beeper. And the beeper, obviously, you could get in touch with people. It was almost a primitive form of messaging, too, and certainly from the incoming messages. And you would have news updates that would come. And so I'll never forget when on all of our beepers, we learned about the bombing that had happened at Centennial Square, I think it was called, down in Atlanta. We also, people sometimes forget that TWA flight went down out of JFK. We learned about that. And, we weren't calling or we weren't watching or anything. We were just getting these messages on our beepers. The other thing I remember about the World Cup is, again, they just give you stuff, and there's just lots and lots of stuff. Everywhere we would go, because we had satellite Olympic villages because we were playing in the soccer tournament. And so it wasn't just in Atlanta. It was all but a bunch of different places. Birmingham, Alabama, we were, Washington, D.C. We would go into these Olympic villages, and they were just stock full with food. And one of the things that, I don't know who makes Lunchables, but Lunchables had just become a thing and just come out. And they were using the Olympics to kind of start their marketing campaign. And so we would go in and stacks of Lunchables. And to this day, I will go into a 7-Eleven and I will grab a Lunchable like it's nobody's business. I'm not sure if I'm probably not even close to being anything good for your body, but that's what the Olympians in 96 were fueled by, was Lunchables, as we looked at our beepers.
And the security guard that found the bomb, Richard Jewell, became a suspect. Clint Eastwood made a movie about that.
Great movie.
But then it ended up being a guy, Eric Rudolph, who was
hiding up in the hills and all that. It was a nutty time. And this moment of instantaneous information that we live in, I often think about how it would have been different. Again, we're watching it on our beepers, but the interconnectivity that we have, and literally the documentation that we have. And if people had the cell phone and the cell phone quality and the readiness of the cell phones when it comes to cameras and video and all that kind of stuff, it's just amazing how far we've come it seems like a long time, but it's still a relatively short period of time. So, maybe I'll tell some more Olympic stories, because I got a lot of them. My kids discovered a big bag of old Olympic gear and proceeded to pilfer a lot of my Olympic stuff, but I was able to get that jacket that I wore last show. Anything before we go?
That is it.
All right. Well, thank you for downloading and reviewing and subscribing and rating and doing all the different things that you do out there, especially the double punch up and down, left and right, double fisting, all that kind of stuff. Smash that button. Smash it. Smash it. Whether it's on YouTube or anywhere else, just smash the hell out of any button that you see fit. Smash it. All right. Thank you to, whether it's Apple or Spotify, like I said, the YouTube, and all the other platforms that we have out there, the X and the Insta and the TikTok and all the different things out there. We really appreciate when you get in touch with us, when you let us know what's going on. We mentioned at the top of the show, give us your power rankings of players or of, Lunchables or whatever it ends up being. Let us know what your power rankings are out there. We will have a wonderful weekend. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your soccer on the field. Enjoy your life off the field. We'll talk to you again next week. And until then, and as always, my friends, size the day.